the figure of the devil has always been a potent symbol, a shape-shifting presence that both haunts and defines the limits of our inner worlds. For centuries, cultures have rendered the devil as a horned beast, a tempter, or even a tragic fallen angel. Yet, when we step into the realm of our dreams and inner narratives, we begin to see that the devil is less an external force and more a projection of our most harrowing fears. The devil, it turns out, is not necessarily an otherworldly demon, but often a mirror in which we see our deepest anxieties, sometimes even taking on familiar faces from our daily lives. In this article, we will explore the devil in its multiple forms, ranging from ancient myth and religious doctrine to modern personal nightmares. We'll ponder whether the devil is a metaphor for our inner demons, a manifestation of societal tensions, or simply a personification of what terrifies us the most in our dreams and daily interactions. The devil in myth, legend, and religion, a historical perspective for much of human history. The devil has been understood as an external antagonist, a force of cosmic evil cast in opposition to a higher good. Early religious texts and medieval sermons painted a picture of a malevolent entity whose sole purpose was to seduce humanity away from salvation. In Christianity, the figure of Satan emerged as a rebel angel, doomed to eternal damnation for challenging divine order. This narrative served as a cautionary tale, warning societies against hubris, transgression, and the betrayal of sacred values. Yet even in these early interpretations, the devil was not static. His depiction evolved as societies themselves transformed. In medieval art, the devil's visage was contorted into grotesque forms, replete with horns, tails, and a visage that evoked dread. These images were intended to be visceral reminders of moral decay and the inevitable punishment for sin. However, the essence of these portrayals was less about an external evil and more about an embodiment of disorder, something deeply familiar to humankind's dark impulses. Evolving symbols across cultures outside of Christianity, other cultures have also given life to the concept of a trickster or malevolent figure that embodies chaos. In some Eastern traditions, a similar force is not so much a singular devil as it is an ever-present shadow of human frailty and moral conflict. Whether through the Buddhist tales of demonic tempters or the rich tapestry of folklore populated by cunning spirits and shapeshifters, these figures serve as metaphors for the internal struggles each of us faces. The multifaceted nature of these symbols suggests that they are less the embodiment of a specific external evil and more the projection of our own inner chaos, our repressed desires, abandoned hopes, and the primal fear of what lurks in the dark corners of our minds. The second, the devil in the realm of dreams as the theater of the unconscious. Our dreams are modern canvases upon which the devil paints his visage. Carl Jung and Sigmund Freud posited that many elements of our dreams, no matter how fantastical, stem from the unconscious mind. Here, the devil differs from the diabolical figure of mythology. Instead, in the realm of dreams, he is the archetypal shadow personified, the part of us we refuse to acknowledge, yet which exerts a powerful influence on our thoughts and behaviors. In our sleep, the devil does not wear a uniform of cosmic rebellion. He morphs into the very embodiment of what intimidates us most. A terrifying vision is not always a monstrous beast, but can be a familiar face, a neighbor, a colleague, or an authority figure presented in a way that amplifies our dread. It is in this symbolic space of personification that the devil becomes a deeply personal nightmare, a customizable manifestation of our inner fears. Manifestations of the devil as personal nightmare. Consider these vivid examples, drawn from the landscape of nightmares: the mother-in-law protecting the ex-wife. In certain strained family dynamics, the devil may show up not as a fearsome demon with horns, but as that very person whose presence exacerbates conflict. Imagine a scenario where the mother-in-law, in her well-intentioned yet intrusive manner, becomes a symbol of betrayal and fragmentation, not just a family figure, but a spectral presence that haunts custody battles. And unresolved anger. Here, the devil is not a distant myth, but the personal embodiment of domestic strife. the federal agent protecting the person they want to kill. In more convoluted narratives of justice, the devil can appear as a federal agent, a guardian of the law twisted by personal vendettas. This figure, ostensibly a protector of the state, might in the subconscious be reimagined as the shield around someone harboring deeply unspeakable intentions. The agent's role as protector in these nightmares is inverted, attracting our attention to the inherent duality in human nature, the thin line between justice and vigilantism, between order and chaos. The mother scaring away the big-headed T-Rex from a child's nightmare. Even in the innocent world of childhood dreams, the devil finds a role. Imagine a child tormented by the monstrous threat of a big-headed T-Rex. Yet, in the safety of dream logic, their mother transforms into an avenging figure, fierce, capable, and strangely, a demon fighter. In this narrative, the devil is not the terror itself, but a distortion of perceived safeguards. Our deepest fears, it seems, might project themselves as both the guardian and the adversary, blurring the lines between safety and horror. The CPS worker and the abuser's nightmare. In the darker recesses of societal taboos, where the innocent are endangered, the devil materializes in even more disturbing forms. For some perpetrators, the nightmares may take the shape of the CPS Child Protective Services worker in league with the police, a relentless, punitive force monitoring even the darkest corners of transgression. For these individuals, the embodiment of the devil is intimately linked with guilt and retribution, an ever-watchful eye that turns the most perverse impulses into burdens too heavy to bear. The psychiatrist tormented by the psychotic patient, and then there's the story of the healer whose own psyche is threatened by the unmoored soul of a psychiatric patient. In these narratives, the devil is not an abstract force of evil, but a tangible, maddening presence, a patient whose disruptive behavior unsettles the established order of treatment. The psychiatrist, once a symbol of calm and order, finds themselves haunted by the chaotic and unpredictable reflections of their patient. The mirroring of inner turmoil in a figure once tasked with restoring sanity creates a profound drama, one where the devil becomes both the symptom and the cause of psychological disarray. Across these images, the devil is never a one-dimensional figure. Instead, each manifestation is a mirror reflecting a particular type of internal conflict, a societal paranoia, or an unspoken truth about our deepest fears. Whether in visions of intrusive family members or as abstract representations of the rebellion against authority, the devil serves to personify the chaos and complexity of human experience. The third, the devil as metaphor. Inner demons and external projections, a reflection of the inner self. At the heart of many philosophical and psychological theories lies the idea that our external enemies are often reflections of the inner turmoil we cannot face directly. The devil, when seen as a metaphor, transcends the boundaries of myth and becomes a symbol of the repressed, the denied, our inner demons. In traditional psychoanalysis, the disowned parts of our psyche strive to emerge in dreams and narratives, presenting themselves as the other. The devil, then, is not a foreign, external demon, but part of ourselves seen through a distorted mirror. This interpretation invites us to ask, what do we fear most about ourselves? Is it our capacity for cruelty, our hidden desires that defy societal norms, or the uncontrollable chaos that threatens order? In many cases, the devil in our dreams and nightmares is a personification of those very fears. Even in mundane situations, a protective yet overbearing mother-in-law. For instance, the figure that haunts our unconscious might be less an enemy than an unacknowledged aspect of our own psyche. It challenges us to reconcile the contradictions within our identity. Projection of societal anxieties. On a broader level, the devil often becomes a repository of societal anxieties. When communities confront rapid change, uncertainty, or moral upheaval, they sometimes externalize their fears into a common figure. In this way, an authority figure, be it a federal agent, a social worker, or a public official, can symbolize not only the state's power, but also its potential for corruption and overreach. As these figures take on demonic characteristics in the collective unconscious, they reveal how fear is interwoven with trust and betrayal. A case in point involves the depiction of the CPS worker in the nightmares of those with predatory tendencies. This embodiment is less about the individual worker and more about the broader societal mechanism that holds abusers accountable, a mechanism that, for the perpetrators, materializes as an inexorable force of retribution. Here, the devil is not just an abstract symbol of evil, but a concrete, albeit distorted, reflection of the consequences that society metes out. This inversion of roles, where protectors turn into terrors, underscores the complex interplay between authority, control, and the internalized fear of accountability. The fourth, unraveling the nightmares, a gallery of personal demons, the devil as the personal adversary. When we consider the devil as a personal nightmare, it becomes a multifaceted enemy that adapts to the contours of our individual tempera. Lives. Family conflicts. The familiar image of the mother-in-law protecting an ex-wife may seem absurd on the surface, but it echoes the real-life tensions and emotional legacies that can define a family's narrative. The figure that once represented warmth and care may, in a context of unresolved conflicts, transform into a menacing specter that represents betrayal or loss. This transformation is indicative of how personal histories and relational traumas can twist even the most benign figures into symbols of fear. Institutional ironies. Consider the federal agent cast as the protector of someone whose demise is quietly desired. In a world where justice is often murky and personal vendettas run high, the agent embodies a paradox, an agent of order whose very effectiveness awakens a repressed need for chaos. In this scenario, the devil signifies the internal struggle between the desire for retribution and the fear of absolute authority, a struggle that plays out on both individual and societal stages. Paradoxical guardians, the seemingly nurturing figure of a mother who scares away an oversized, fantastical creature from the dreams of her child, introduces another dimension to the devil's metaphor. In this narrative, the protective force transforms into a dual-edged sword. The mother, a figure of unconditional love, becomes enveloped in the same shadows that create the nightmare. The monster's thorax, with its disproportionate features, symbolizes the distortion of a child's simple fears into a complex allegory of the unknown. In a sense, what should be a benign act of protection mutates into the emergence of another kind of fear, one that speaks to the inherent unpredictability of human emotion. The torment of the healer. In the world of mental health, where professionals strive to mend fractured psyches, the encounter with a disruptive, even maddening patient can shatter the veneer of control. The psychiatrist, who should be the paragon of stability, finds themselves pushed to the edge by an individual who embodies unruly chaos. This inversion, where the healer becomes haunted by the very madness they attempt to cure, illustrates how the devil can be an unexpected mirror of our own vulnerabilities. A reminder that even those dedicated to restoring order are susceptible to internal collapse. The dissonant score of unacknowledged fears. Every one of these scenarios speaks to a common theme. The devil, as it appears in our dreams and night terrors, is a composite of unacknowledged fears, the parts of our inner landscape we are too afraid to confront during our waking hours. In these dreams, figures from our daily lives, those we deem trustworthy or protective, subtly shift into embodiments of danger. This eerie transformation highlights a crucial psychological truth. Sometimes, the most terrifying aspects of our nightmares come not from the unknown, but from the familiar, twisted beyond recognition by our repressed palm. Emotions. When we see a federal agent protecting someone we would otherwise wish harm upon, or a CPS worker personified in the guise of an omnipresent avenger, we are witnessing the collision of social expectations with personal guilt. The images we cling to in our dreams are often reflections of internal conflicts where right turns into wrong, guardians morph into aggressors, and the lines between self and other blur into a tapestry of fear. The devil beyond the dream. Cultural and social implications. Iconography of the devil in contemporary society and modern culture the devil has shed many of his traditional trappings without losing his essential power as an archetype. From literature to cinema, his image recurs not simply as a character in horror stories, but as a symbol that interrogates the status quo. Popular films, books, and television shows often use the devil as a central figure whose presence underscores the conflicts inherent in modern life, between personal desire and societal convention, between rationality and the irrational pull of the unconscious. For instance, characters modeled after the devil, whether they be enigmatic antiheroes or overt antagonists, work to remind us that our personal demons are not to be ignored. They serve as cautionary figures embedded in narratives that challenge conventional morality. In this way, the devil acts as an impulse for self-reflection, urging us to examine the dissonance between our public personas and our private anxieties. Society's collective projection beyond individual nightmares, the devil emerges as a focus for collective projection in times of societal stress. When communities face rapid transformation, whether through political upheaval, economic uncertainty, or cultural conflict, the need to cast blame on an external enemy becomes a psychological bomb. The devil then morphs into a symbol not merely of personal fear, but of societal vulnerability. He stands in for the unknown, the unpredictable, and the dangerous facets of modern life that resist neat categorization. In these moments, the devil transforms from an abstract concept into a tangible adversary, a figure that can be vilified in public discourse and appropriately blamed for the hardships faced by society. Whether portrayed as a corrupt bureaucrat, a manipulative influencer, or an unseen force behind political intrigues, the devil as a societal figure reminds us that the line between internal fear and external reality is often perilously thin. VI. Psychological underpinnings, confronting the shadow self. Jung's concept of the shadow, the notion that the devil is not external but a manifestation of our own suppressed impulses, is powerfully captured in the analytical work of Carl Jung. Jung introduced the concept of the shadow, the darker aspects of our personality that we reject, yet that silently govern our dreams and actions. The shadow is our repository of unintegrated qualities, aspects of ourselves that we either deny or are unaware of. When the devil appears in our dreams, he may be the personification of this shadow material. Rather than an invading demon, he is an internal force, urging us to confront the neglected fragments of our identity. His familiar forms, be they a protective mother-in-law, a relentless federal agent, or an unhinged patient, are the faces of our hidden impulses, the very parts of ourselves we would rather not see. This perspective reframes the nightly terror as an invitation to introspection. The devil becomes a guide, albeit a harsh one, leading us toward the integration of our fragmented self. The therapeutic dimension for the psychiatrist troubled by the disruptive influence of a seemingly malevolent patient, the experience is both a professional and personal challenge. Here, the devil is not an external punishment, but a signal that the boundaries between caregiver and recipient of care can sometimes blur. Such encounters force both the healer and the healed to confront the full spectrum of human vulnerability. In therapeutic settings, acknowledging this internal demon is crucial. Embracing the shadow and recognizing that each person harbors a latent capacity for both creation and destruction opens the door to a deeper understanding of what it means to be human. This integration, the reconciliation of our hidden fears with our conscious identity, is a difficult yet potentially transformative process. The devil, then, is retooled from being a mere embodiment of evil into a more nuanced symbol of the complexities of the psyche. A reminder that growth often requires acknowledging, rather than suppressing, the darker aspects of our nature. The seventh, a closer look at the devil in diverse contexts. The role of the devil in familial narratives. Imagine a family gathering where old wounds and conflicting loyalties come to the forefront. Amid these interactions, the figure of the devil might not appear as a literal beast, but as the emotionally charged presence of a family member whose behavior has long been a source of distress. the archetype of the meddling mother-in-law, ever protective of an ex-partner, embroiled in the tangled legacy of past relationships, illustrates how personal vendettas and unresolved conflicts can imbue everyday relationships with a diabolical quality. In these moments, the devil is not an abstract villain but an ever-present reminder of the frailties within intimate bonds. The devil in the service of retribution consider the unsettling picture of the federal agent who, in the realm of dreams, is invested with a dual mandate. He or she is both protector and avenger. For some, this figure represents the internal conflict between a desire for order and the dark, often unspoken wish for retribution. In the subconscious mind, what might be officially recognized as law enforcement is transformed into a sinister force, a guardian who shields those whose demise is secretly desired. This inversion is a potent reminder of the ethical ambiguities that often lie beneath the surface of our societal norms. It is a stark illustration of how our internal struggle for justice can sometimes warp itself into an obsession with control and, ultimately, self-destruction. The symbolism and parental protection within the safe confines of a child's sleep, parental figures often assume heroic roles. However, as the nightmare unfolds, even these comforting presences can transform. When a child dreams of an absurd behemoth, a big-headed T-Rex, perhaps the mother's intervention is not merely an act of protection. It is a complex, multi-layered interaction where the protective figure becomes an inadvertent participant in the narrative of fear. The very person who is meant to nurture transforms into a vessel for the child's more abstract, undefinable anxieties. This transformation speaks volumes about the fluid nature of the symbols we carry from childhood into adulthood. In such dreams, the devil is not the monstrous creature itself, but the process by which our minds morph love and safety into something simultaneously familiar and feared. The institutional devil, social workers, and the burden of justice in darker personal narratives, such as those involving abuse or deeply immoral behavior, the devil may assume the form of an institutional presence. For individuals who engage in reprehensible behavior, such as the abuser who dreads the inevitable arrival of retributive justice, the figure of the CPS worker and associated law enforcement becomes an omnipresent specter. In these distorted visions, the devil is the embodiment of consequence, the reminder of a collective moral order that will eventually claim its due. This transformation of a bureaucratic figure into a relentless harbinger of accountability is a testament to the power of projection, a projection that takes our private guilt and amplifies it until it assumes a nearly cosmic significance. The therapist and the haunted practitioner delving into the intricacies of professional practice, the case of the psychiatrist tormented by a particularly challenging patient, serves as another potent allegory. In this narrative, the boundaries of sanity and control are upended when the healer becomes prey to the intangible forces of chaos that dwell within their own mind. The image of a psych patient who disrupts sessions and shatters the carefully constructed layers of clinical detachment, emblematic of the unsettling truth that our inner demons do not respect the neat categorization of professional versus personal. The therapist, intended to be the rational observer, finds themselves entangled with the very madness they seek to cure. In this scenario, the devil is the internal friction that arises from the impossibility of fully banishing the darker side of human nature, a force that reminds us that every attempt at control is also an invitation to inner discovery. The eighth, beyond the nightmare, embracing the shadow transformation through confrontation. If the devil in our dreams and narratives represents our deepest unacknowledged fears, the challenge then becomes one of acceptance and, integration. The process of confronting our inner demons, of inviting the devil into the light of our awareness, can be a transformative act. Psychological theories suggest that by acknowledging the shadow, by understanding that the devil is not separate, but an intrinsic part of us, we can begin to integrate these elements into a more coherent sense of self. For many, this process takes the form of therapy, meditation, or creative expression. It is within these acts of self-exploration that one might find the courage to face the aspects of the self that once seemed too frightening to confront. By doing so, the devil is transformed from an omnipresent harbinger of doom into a catalyst for growth, a symbol of the resilience required to navigate the labyrinth of the unconscious. The collective call for understanding: as much as the devil is a personal demon, he is also a reflection of societal complexities. Our collective fears of authority, of failure, of betrayal find common expression in the figure of the devil. When communities come together to face challenges that seem insurmountable, the process of remembering our shared vulnerabilities can foster a sense of unity that belies the isolation imposed by our nightmares. The collective confrontation with the devil, whether through art, public discourse, or communal rituals, serves to remind us that the fears that divide us can also be the source of our shared strength. In literature and the arts, many modern creators have taken up the mantle of exploring these complex relationships. Through novels, films, and visual arts, the devil is reimagined not as a one-dimensional figure of evil, but as a rich tapestry of cultural anxieties and personal conflicts. This artistic exploration encourages us to see beyond the simplistic dualities of good versus evil, and instead recognize the profound interplay of light and shadow that defines the human experience. The 9th. Reflections on the Devil, a synthesis of fear and transformation. The personal is political at its core. The devil is not an entity that exists independently of our thoughts, dreams, and emotions. He is rather an intricate symbol, an amalgamation of personal, familial, and societal fears that coalesce into one disquieting figure. Each nightmare takes the devil's visage and molds it to fit a particular narrative. Whether it is the overbearing presence of a family member, the ironic guardian of justice, or the unsettling specter in a professional's life. This dialectic of fear and uncertainty, constantly in dialogue with personal responsibility and societal expectations, invites us to reconsider what we label as evil. Is it really the external, the other, or is it the manifestation of the parts of ourselves we might otherwise prefer to ignore? When we peer deep into our own darkness, we often find that the devil staring back at us is inextricably intertwined with our humanity. The call to embrace the unacknowledged by recognizing that the devil is, in many cases, an externalization of our suppressed emotions and unresolved conflicts, we can start to demystify his power. This process is not about exonerating harmful behavior or dismissing culpability. It is instead about recognizing that every human being carries within them a capacity for both creation and destruction. Embracing our shadow self is not a weakness. It is a vital step toward achieving a more holistic understanding of who we are. For those haunted by the specter of personal demons, be it the caregiver tormented by the reflection of an uncontrolled patient, or the individual captive to the guilt of unacknowledged misdeeds, the journey toward understanding is one paved with both introspection and the communal acknowledgement of our imperfections. In doing so, we can begin to see that the devil is less an external oppressor and more a signal, a call to arms, urging us to face our inner contradictions head-on. Transformation as redemption. In the end, the narrative of the devil is one of duality and transformation. It is a story in which the forces of fear can serve as the catalysts for profound personal and collective evolution. Whether encountered in the form of grotesque allegories within dreams or the all-too-familiar faces of our daily lives, the devil challenges us to ask uncomfortable questions about identity, morality, and the nature barang of fear itself. By embracing the complexity of our inner landscapes, we no longer need to fear the devil as a separate, malignant force. Instead, we recognize that within the dark corridors of our subconscious lies not only terror, but also the potential for growth if only we summon the courage to step into the light. Acknowledge our shadows and transform our nightmares into lessons for a more integrated existence. X. Conclusion. The devil within and the journey toward inner wholeness. The figure of the devil, ever mutable, ever adaptable, remains one of the most enduring symbols of human fear. Through centuries, he has worn many masks. The fallen angel of religious lore, the monstrous demon of medieval art, and the unsettling silhouette that emerges in our deepest dreams. Yet, beyond these varied representations lies a profound truth. The devil is, in many ways, a metaphor for our internal struggles. He is the personification of the parts of us we dare not face. The hidden guilt, the unspoken resentment, the unfathomable complexity of the human psyche. Whether manifested as a meddling family member wielding unintended chaos, an institutional figure cloaked in ironic retribution, or the destabilizing presence in a healing relationship, the devil consistently reveals our collective vulnerability. In embracing this understanding, we begin to see that the journey to integrate our shadow is one of both personal courage and communal empathy. The process of confronting our inner demons, of peering into the depths of what we fear most, is, in itself, a radical act of self-acceptance. As we navigate a world rife with uncertainty and contradictions, the devil serves as a lasting reminder of the importance of self-reflection. To see him is to see ourselves, both the light and the darkness intermingled in every human heart. In this acknowledgement, there is the potential not for despair, but for a transformation that enriches our understanding of what it means to be truly human. The devil, then, is not an external monster waiting to pounce. He is an internal mirror reflecting the complexities of our existence. His many faces, from the everyday figures that disrupt our lives to the nightmarish apparitions that haunt our sleep, urge us to embark on an inward journey. A journey that demands we face our most hidden insecurities, question the nature of our morality, and ultimately transform fear into an impetus for growth. In the end, the path to inner wholeness is paved by acknowledging that every person, every society, harbors both light and dark. The devil is our reminder that our greatest challenges and sometimes our greatest opportunities lie in the reconciliation of these opposing forces. By daring to look beyond the demon's mask and seeing the complexity within, we take the first crucial steps toward a life enriched by self-awareness, compassion, and the transformative power of understanding. Epilogue. Inviting the conversation further, the exploration of the devil as both a metaphor and a nightmare is a conversation that stretches across cultures, minds, and generations. It is not a static discussion, but one that invites fresh interpretations as our society evolves and our understanding of the psyche deepens. In the myriad images that populate our dreams, be it the protective yet intrusive figure of a family member, the conflicted authority of a federal agent, the dual-natured parental protector, or the unsettling presence that disrupts our sanity, each reflects a facet of the complex human condition. What emerges from this inquiry is a call to acknowledge the inherent duality within all of us. As we continue to explore the nature of fear, desire, and the shadows that define our inner worlds, we might consider, quote, perhaps the journey to decode the devil is, at its core, a journey toward understanding ourselves better, a journey where every nightmare carries the potential for illumination. In this spirit, let the conversation continue. Reflect on your own dreams and the faces that haunt them. Ask yourself what hidden parts of your inner world you might be reluctant to confront, and consider the possibility that in facing these shadows, you may find an unexpected path to personal transformation. May this exploration of the devil as both a metaphor and an embodiment of our deepest fears serve as an invitation to look beyond the surface and to embrace the complexity of your inner landscape. The devil, in all his many faces, is not an adversary to be vanquished, but a mirror to be understood, a timeless symbol urging us to transform our fear into wisdom and connect with the entirety of who we are.